the call that found you. Something awakened within you the very instant these words reached your consciousness. You didn't stumble upon this message by mere chance or random scrolling. I orchestrated its arrival at this precise moment because there are truths I've been longing to release into your spirit, words that have been germinating in the depths long before your ears were ready to receive them. This is no accident of timing or algorithm. This is a divine appointment I've scheduled specifically for you in this hour during this particular chapter of your journey. I need you to pause. Whatever else is competing for your attention, quiet the noise within and lean in with your whole being. What I'm about to share transcends the ordinary. It carries the weight and authority of heaven itself, directed straight into the center of your circumstances. I have witnessed your journey. I have observed you carrying burdens that were never designed for your shoulders alone. I've watched you navigate your days with a persistent ache residing deep within, the kind that doesn't announce itself loudly, but remains your constant companion from sunrise until the darkness settles again. You've maintained composure for those depending on you. You've offered smiles when your inner world was far from smiling. You've continued pressing forward even when forward seemed like a direction that no longer existed for you. I have witnessed every detail, the tears you've hidden, the prayers you've whispered, the moments when you questioned if anyone was truly paying attention. Let me assure you with absolute certainty, not a single moment has escaped my notice or been forgotten in my records. The miracle that bears your name. There exists a miracle that rightfully belongs to you, one that has your identity woven into its very fabric. This miracle was ordained before you ever entered the most challenging seasons of your existence. Nothing that has transpired, not a single setback, not one closed opportunity, not a solitary sleepless night spent wondering if I had abandoned you, has altered what I have predetermined for your life. Your future remains intact, your promise remains active, and your destiny remains on course. However, I need you to understand something crucial. What rightfully belongs to you faces opposition. Forces of doubt and exhaustion are actively pressing against your spirit, attempting to convince you that your season has passed you by, that you've waited beyond your window of opportunity, that the door has permanently sealed shut. These voices are peddling deception. Do not accept their words as truth. Do not allow them to take residence in your thinking. Understanding the opposition you face, the resistance you've encountered is not evidence that you've been forsaken. On the contrary, it's proof that what I've placed within your story possesses genuine value worth contending for. The adversary doesn't waste resources attacking what carries no power or potential. He targets those who stand on the threshold of something that could fundamentally shift their circumstances and impact others. If you've recently experienced unusual heaviness, a form of pressure that defies logical explanation, do not interpret this as a sign of impending failure. Instead, recognize it as an indicator that you are incredibly close to a significant turning point. Whatever has been pressing against you has not succeeded in dislodging you from your position. You remain standing. You remain present. You remain here. This reality carries more significance than you currently grasp. My focus is your future. I haven't come to you today to catalog what went wrong in your past. I'm not interested in rehearsing your failures or highlighting areas where you fell short. Those matters hold no relevance for this moment. What captures my complete attention is your future, what I am preparing to release into your life, because the timing has now matured. The season of extended preparation is drawing toward its conclusion. The things I've been orchestrating behind the scenes are beginning to move into visible alignment. You'll start noticing small indicators of this shift, moments that feel too perfectly timed to be random, coincidences that carry too much significance to be dismissed. Welcome these signs. They are not accidents. They are signals from me that the page is turning. I know the nights have stretched endlessly. I know there have been hours when you lay still in the darkness and your thoughts pressed in relentlessly. I know the weight of wondering if your prayers were reaching me at all, if your trust was placing you in a position of foolishness, if those around you were correct when they suggested you had set your expectations unreasonably high. My response to all that perceived silence is this: I was always present. I was never distant. What felt like silence was not absence, it was the focused concentration of an artisan working intently on something requiring their most careful attention. That artisan was me, and what I was crafting was specifically for you, drawing closer without fear. Come closer now, not burdened by fear, not carrying the diminished hope of someone who has experienced repeated disappointment, but with the steady expectancy of someone whose father has demonstrated faithfulness consistently across time. I'm not initiating a new promise today. I'm completing one that has always belonged to you. I'm positioning the final elements for a breakthrough that has already been inscribed in the purposes I hold for your existence. Stand firm in this truth. Do not waver. Do not retreat now. If you receive this word, declare your agreement openly. I didn't bring you to this moment so you could remain outside the life I designed for you. I've been calling you forward from the very beginning through every circumstance, every unexpected turn, every season that confused you or left you uncertain. Each of those seasons served as a corridor leading somewhere. Every closed door protected you from a path not constructed for you. Every delay shielded you from receiving something before you were prepared to steward it well. You may not have perceived it that way at the time, most people never do, but from my perspective, the pattern is unmistakable. Every single step brought you precisely here, and here's exactly where the next extraordinary chapter begins: the resilience you haven't recognized. There is a resilience within you that you haven't fully acknowledged. You minimize it because it doesn't feel like strength from the inside, it feels like merely surviving. But what appears to you as simply getting through looks like remarkable endurance from where I stand. I have watched you choose trust when circumstances offered no logical justification for trust. I have witnessed you reach for hope when surrounding evidence pointed in the opposite direction. That is not weakness, that is a quality of faith I treasure deeply. And that faith, my beloved, is not going unrewarded. Stand firm. I'm not asking you to manufacture confidence you don't genuinely feel. Rest in who I am. Your moment is arriving. There are voices speaking against your miracle, and I want you to understand them clearly so you'll stop granting them authority over your heart. These voices originate from fear, not wisdom. They've manifested in numerous forms, some through people who love you but whose own hope has diminished. They observe your situation and offer what their limited faith can envision, which isn't much. Their words weren't malicious, but they weren't mine either. Don't carry them. The internal voices of opposition, some of the loudest opposition emerges from within your own thinking, the voice claiming it's too late for you, the voice cataloging every attempt that didn't succeed, the voice measuring your age, your resources, your history of mistakes, and concluding nothing remains worth anticipating. This voice knows exactly which wounds to press. It speaks in a tone that sounds almost reasonable, almost like practical wisdom, but it represents the oldest deception in existence. It told Sarah her season had passed. It told the disciples the tomb was sealed and the story had ended. It has consistently been wrong, and it is wrong about you. The three main forms of opposition. I want to identify for you the three primary ways this opposition maneuvers against you so you can recognize them instantly when they appear. First is the spirit of doubt. It whispers questions designed not to produce answers, but to destabilize your confidence. What if this doesn't work out this time? What if I'm the exception? What if I've misread this situation? The moment you hear those questions taking root, expel them with my word. Speak aloud what I have declared over you. My word in your mouth is the sharpest response to every whispered doubt. Second is the spirit of impatience. It urges you to stop waiting and seize control yourself. It makes the waiting feel wasteful. It suggests that if I truly intended to move, I would have moved already. So it pushes you to grasp solutions beneath what I have planned to settle for something less, because something less is immediately available. Don't do it. Impatience has cost many people the very thing I was about to give them. They reach for the nearest door and miss the one I was preparing to open. Active faith waits. It prays. It declares. It holds. And it trusts my timing even when my timing feels prolonged. Third is the spirit of comparison. It turns your eyes toward others and breeds resentment. Why did their answer arrive so quickly? Why is their life advancing while yours feels frozen? Comparison is designed to replace gratitude with resentment, and resentment becomes a weight that closes the hand that should remain open to receive. Your path belongs to no one else. The things I've prepared for you aren't transferable. They were shaped for your life, your specific needs, the precise contours of your unique purpose. No one else's blessing can inform you about yours. Speak these words aloud now, if you're willing. I trust you with the timing. I trust you with the way. I believe what you've promised is on its way to me, and I will not forfeit it through fear. Stand in agreement if your spirit affirms this. The story of Peter's transformation. Now, I want to recount for you the story of a man named Peter. He had spent an entire night on the water practicing his craft. He wasn't lazy or faithless. He worked through the darkness, employing every skill and technique he possessed, and he arrived at morning with empty hands, no catch, just exhaustion and the quiet sting of a night that produced nothing. That's a feeling, I think, the experience of having poured everything you had into something and still coming up short. The effort was authentic, the weariness was genuine, but the result remained empty. I came to Peter on the shore and gave him an instruction that made no sense from where he stood. Go back out, cast your net again. He had already done this repeatedly through the night, but something within him responded. He went back. He didn't wait to feel certain. He didn't demand I explain myself first. He simply obeyed despite his exhaustion and despite all previous evidence suggesting this wouldn't work. What happened next was so overwhelming that the net could barely contain it. My beloved, I am standing at the edge of your story today, speaking the same kind of word to you. Not because I'm dismissing how tired you are, not because I'm unaware of the long nights behind you. I see all of it, but I also see what's in the water just ahead of you. I know what's waiting if you launch out one more time. The moment you act in trust, even when everything within you insists there's no good reason, is the moment the impossible becomes immediate. Don't hold back now. You're closer than the empty nets make it feel. What I have prepared is real, specific, and yours. The power of ordinary actions. There's something important about that moment with Peter. He wasn't asked to perform something extraordinary. He was asked to do the ordinary thing one more time, the same action that had produced nothing all night, but this time in response to my word. That was the entire difference. The action itself didn't change, the posture behind it changed completely. He transitioned from human effort to obedient trust. That's the shift I'm inviting you into right now. Return to the water, my beloved. Launch out once more in trust rather than in striving. The deep water ahead is precisely where I'm waiting for you. Your words carry weight. I want to address something that may seem simple but carries more significance than you've realized. Your words, the things you speak over yourself, your situation, your future. What comes out of your mouth isn't merely sound that dissipates into the air. Your words are seeds. They enter the soil, they take root, and they produce fruit, whether you intend it or not. When you declare you'll never find a way through this, you're building walls. When you say it's too late for you, you're writing conclusions before the story has ended. When you assert that nothing ever works out for you, you're forming an agreement with opposition and closing the space where my provision needs to move. I'm not asking you to ignore your reality. I'm asking you to stop allowing your reality to have the final word. My word carries the final authority, and my word declares you are provided for. My word says you are not forgotten. My word says the best of what I have for you lies ahead, not behind. This isn't about pretense, it's about alignment. When your mouth speaks in agreement with what I've promised, something shifts in the unseen realm. Agreements made in faith unlock movement. Declarations rooted in my word create openings for my power to work in ways your circumstances alone cannot explain. So I'm asking you, starting from this moment, to be intentional about what you say, not because I'm a rigid authority counting your words, but because I'm a father who knows what your declarations do to your own spirit and to the atmosphere surrounding you. Say this: what I'm walking through is not my ending. My best days are ahead. The one who holds my future is faithful, and I trust him with every part of my life. Speak it plainly. Speak it again if needed. Let your spirit hear it from your own voice. Because the faith I'm calling forth from you isn't a feeling that waits for evidence before speaking. It's a choice that speaks first and then awaits the evidence to follow. The woman who understood faith, I want to tell you about a woman who understood this before she ever opened her mouth. She had been carrying a sickness for 12 years, not 1 year, not two, but 12. She had tried every available remedy. She had given her resources to every source of help she could find, and still she remained unwell. The reasonable voice in her situation possessed ample evidence, 12 years of evidence, empty hands, depleted resources, and every practical reason to conclude change was no longer available. But something rose within her that wasn't reasonable. It was faith, and faith operates on different calculations than reason. She heard I was nearby and she moved toward me, not waiting for a sign, not waiting for permission, not waiting until she felt more certain. She moved first. She determined that if she could get close enough to brush even the edge of what I carried, that would be sufficient. And the moment she acted on that decision, healing flowed from me to her so immediately that I felt it leave me. What 12 years of effort hadn't accomplished, one moment of active faith achieved. Because she didn't wait to see before she acted, and then she saw. I'm asking you to move in the same way right now, not to wait until everything feels right, not to hold back until circumstances align into something more encouraging, but to act in trust with what's in front of you. Because when faith moves, I move with it. Your miracle isn't waiting for your situation to change. Your situation is waiting for your faith to move, acting before full evidence. There's a moment in every breakthrough where the recipient had to act before possessing complete evidence. Every story I've written that changed everything began with someone deciding to trust me at the very point where trusting made the least logical sense. That's the moment I've been preparing you for. That moment is now. I'm asking you to place a portion of what you have, something of genuine weight, upon the altar of this work, as gold laid on the scales of this calling. Let it be a seed sown into deep water, an offering set on stone, not held back in fear. This is proof that your trust rests in my hand to provide and that your heart no longer clings to lack. What you release in faith doesn't leave your life, it moves ahead of you into the harvest I'm preparing. I didn't call you close to this moment just to have you leave the same way you arrived. Something is meant to shift within you here. I'm asking you not to receive these words as a pleasant thought and then return to everything exactly as it was. Faith that doesn't produce action isn't the kind of faith that moves anything, but faith that steps forward even in uncertainty, even with trembling hands. That's the faith I've always responded to. That's the faith that rewrote history through ordinary people who simply decided to trust me more than they trusted their fear. What I'm placing in your path right now won't be reached by standing still. You'll reach it by moving, by choosing, by releasing what has held you and reaching toward what I'm holding for you. The woman who was healed didn't receive her miracle while convincing herself otherwise. She received it while moving toward me. Let that define what this moment means for you. Move toward me right now, one step. I will be right there to meet you. The purpose in your waiting. There's something I want you to understand about every season of waiting you've endured. None of it was punishment. None of it was neglect. Every delay served a function, even the ones that felt most silent, even the ones that stretched beyond what felt reasonable or fair. What appears from the inside as time going to waste is often, from where I stand, time being used with remarkable precision. I don't let your seasons pass without purpose. I'm not a God who marks time carelessly. Abraham and Sarah waited 25 years for a promise I had spoken clearly over their lives. 25 years. Consider what that number represents in a human life, years of holding a word without supporting evidence. Years of watching time move in directions that seem to contradict everything I'd said. Every practical voice in their world would have agreed the moment had passed. Biology agreed, age agreed, reason agreed, but my word did not expire. My word doesn't expire. And when the moment I had always intended finally arrived, Sarah laughed with a joy so complete she couldn't contain it. What arrived wasn't less than what I'd promised because of the weight, it was exactly what I'd said. And it carried the added weight of having stood through every reason not to believe it. Your weight hasn't diminished what I've prepared for you, it has deepened it. Every year of faithfulness in the lean season is a year I've taken into account. Every choice to keep trusting when evidence was thin is something I've not missed. What you're about to receive carries the full measure of everything I intended for you before the waiting began. The delay didn't reduce the promise. The delay was preparation for the person who would receive it. Hagar's desert encounter. I want to tell you about a woman named Hagar who found herself in a desert with nothing left. The water was gone. Hope had run dry. She moved her child away so she wouldn't have to witness what was coming. She had arrived at what felt like the absolute end of her options. And in that place, I opened her eyes, not to something arriving from outside, but to a well that was already present, already there. She simply hadn't been able to see it through her despair. I didn't create a new source for her in that moment. I simply opened her eyes to what I had already placed nearby. It was always there. She couldn't see it until she called out to me. Hear me say this carefully. There are things I've already positioned near you that your discouragement has kept you from recognizing. Sources of provision, doors of possibility, people positioned to participate in your breakthrough, things already present in the landscape of your life. You've been looking so intently at what's missing that you've failed to see what's already there. I'm asking you to let me open your eyes, not to something coming from far away, but to what I've already quietly prepared and placed within reach. Job's restoration, then there's Job. He knew what it was to lose almost everything that mattered. Everything giving his life its visible shape seemed to fall away at once. The people around him offered explanations that were wrong, conclusions drawn from a view too small to see what I was doing. Job didn't understand what was happening, but he held on. He argued with me, which isn't the same as turning from me. He brought his grief and confusion to my doorstep and stayed there. And what came after that long season of holding on was a restoration that exceeded what had been not a pale echo of his former life, but a fuller, richer version. I am the God of restoration. This isn't a figure of speech, it's what I do. What you feel you've lost, I'm not finished with. Relationships you thought were beyond repair aren't beyond my reach. Strength you believe has been permanently depleted isn't beyond my renewing. Dreams you set aside because they seem to belong to a younger, less weathered version of yourself aren't forgotten. I placed those desires within you. They didn't originate with you, they came from me, which means I have every intention of bringing them to life. The years you consider lost are years I intend to restore with abundance. Every season of waiting is followed by a season of return, and your return is coming. I'm already working on the specifics, arranging the people, shaping the circumstances, moving the pieces not yet visible to you. My preparation is never superficial. When I work ahead of time on your behalf, I do it with full knowledge of every detail your situation requires. Nothing is being improvised. Everything is being prepared. The meeting point of preparation. When the prepared thing finally meets your prepared heart, what unfolds will exceed what you could have mapped out from where you stood during the waiting. You're closer to that meeting point than any previous season of your life, much closer. The light that felt so far away is now near enough to warm you. Open yourself to it. Don't contract back into the safety of low expectations. Dare to believe again that what I say is true, not because evidence has fully arrived, but because I have never once failed to deliver what I've spoken. Hold your expectation open. Let it be wide. I'm not in the business of half measures. I'm filling every part of what you've said before me, and I intend to overflow it. The restoration I'm preparing for you isn't a partial recovery. It isn't the smaller version of what was. It's the full thing returned and amplified with the marks of my faithfulness pressed all through it. What I restore to you won't look like a reduced version of what was, it will look like abundance. The weight of unforgiveness. I need to speak to you about something that may be the heaviest thing you're carrying without fully realizing it, the weight of what others have done to you, the wounds from people who were supposed to be safe, the betrayals that arrived from directions you never anticipated, the disappointments from those you gave your trust to and who handled it carelessly. You haven't talked much about some of these things. They live in the quieter places of you, but I see them, and I know how much energy it takes to carry what you were never designed to hold. There are people in your story who hurt you. Some did it knowingly. Some did it without understanding the damage they caused. Some were broken people who passed their brokenness on because that's all they had to give in that season. And some of them you've already forgiven, but some you haven't. And the unforgiveness, my child, is a chain. It doesn't punish the one who wronged you. It keeps you anchored to the moment of the wound, unable to move freely into what I have ahead for you. I'm not asking you to pretend the harm didn't happen. It did happen. I'm not asking you to return to what was unsafe or to trust again someone who hasn't given you any reason to trust them. Wisdom and forgiveness aren't opposites. You can forgive someone fully and still protect the ground of your life from being harmed again. What I'm asking is specific and precise. I'm asking you to release the right of revenge, to stop carrying the debt, to hand it to me who sees everything clearly and will settle every account justly. That's not your work, that's mine. When you release that weight, something happens inside you that you can't manufacture through any other means. Space opens, not just emotional space, but spiritual space. Space where new things can enter. Space where I can move without obstruction. Some of the breakthrough you've been waiting for is on the other side of that release, not because I'm withholding until you perform correctly, but because the bitterness itself has functioned like a closed hand. An open hand can receive, a clenched one cannot. Wounds that become strength. Here's something worth sitting with. Where you've been broken and have allowed me to heal you, that's where you're now strongest. When a bone fractures and is properly set and healed, the point of fracture becomes denser than the surrounding structure. The place that broke becomes, in the end, more resistant than what never broke at all. Your healed wounds aren't your weaknesses, they're the most unbreakable parts of you. The enemy spent his best effort on those places and they held. What does that tell you? It tells you that you're more durable than you've given yourself credit for. It tells you that you've already survived what was meant to stop you. I am the God of new beginnings. This isn't a title I hold casually. It's the consistent story of every life I've ever worked in. No matter how many times a person has stumbled, no matter how far off course a life has drifted, I'm not done writing. Every morning that comes is a statement from me. It's mercy made visible. It's a declaration that the story is still open, that today carries possibility that yesterday didn't exhaust. You haven't run out of new beginnings. You haven't used up the capacity I built into your story for fresh starts. Dismantling protective barriers. I know you've tried to protect yourself from further hurt by keeping your expectations low. You've learned to not want too much, so that if things fall short again, the distance between expectation and reality remains smaller. I understand why you built that protection. It was a reasonable response to real pain, but it's also keeping you from receiving what I intend to give you. I'm asking you to dismantle that protection carefully, not to leave yourself exposed to foolishness, but to open yourself to the possibility that what I'm bringing toward you is genuinely good, not a trick, not something that will collapse when you touch it, something real, something lasting, something worthy of your trust. You don't need to become someone different to receive what I have for you. You don't need to perform a version of yourself that's more polished or more certain or more spiritually impressive. I know exactly who you are in your most unguarded moments. I've seen all of it, every stumble, every fear, every quiet moment of doubt. And I chose you fully, not a cleaned up version of you. The acceptance I extend to you isn't conditional on your improvement, it's already complete. Rest in that. Let it settle. You don't need to earn what I'm giving you, only need to receive it. Looking ahead, not behind. Look up now. Lift your gaze from the ground of past losses and the weight of old wounds. What's ahead of you isn't defined by what's behind you. I've set your future beyond the reach of your past. And I'm inviting you to step into it unencumbered, free from the chains that have held you in yesterday. Say it aloud now. If your heart is ready, I release what held me. I step forward. I receive what is prepared for me. If your spirit agrees, let this be your declaration of trust. I am right here holding what you've trusted me with, and I will not let it go to waste. Not a single part of your story, not the struggle, not the waiting, not the releasing. It's all in my hands. And what I hold, I transform. Every single part of you is in the hands that formed the world, and those hands are entirely trustworthy. My hands don't return what they receive in the same condition. They received it, they return it healed, strengthened, and multiplied. You are completely safe here. A word of affirmation. I want to tell you something you may not have heard in a long time, or perhaps ever heard in quite this way. I am proud of you. Not proud in the way that requires you to have succeeded impressively or to have handled everything without stumbling. Proud in the way a parent is proud of a child who kept getting up. Proud of the way you've chosen repeatedly to stay in the conversation with me, even when the conversation felt one sided. Proud of the mornings you rose and kept going when you had every emotional reason to simply stop. The world measures value by outcomes. I measure it differently. I look at the heart that kept trusting when there was no visible reward for trusting. And what I see in yours deserves to be honored. You've given kindness to people who didn't return it. You've been patient with situations that tested your limits. You've stayed generous in seasons when you didn't have much to give. Those things weren't invisible to me, not a single one of them. What you sow in hidden faithfulness doesn't disappear. It accumulates, it builds, and you're approaching the season where the harvest of all that faithful, quiet, unrewarded sowing is beginning to arrive. What I see ahead for you, let me tell you what I see ahead for you, because this isn't the season like the ones before it. What's coming is different in kind, not just a slight improvement on your current circumstances, but a genuine step into a new level of life. Doors that have been sealed will open without you forcing them. People who can play meaningful parts in your story will arrive at exactly the right time. Opportunities that seemed entirely out of reach will come within arm's length, not because you chased them down, but because I directed them toward you. This isn't wishful language. This is what happens when the preparation season ends and the release season begins. However, I want you to understand something important about what I'm bringing. The blessing that's coming isn't just for you alone. Your miracle has a reach that extends beyond your own life. There are people whose faith has grown thin, people right on the edge of giving up, people who need to see with their own eyes that I still work, that what I say still comes to pass, that the long wait doesn't mean I forgot. Your story, when it reaches the other side of this, is going to be that evidence for someone else. Your testimony will do in another person's heart what no persuasive argument can accomplish. It will show them a real life with real difficulties and real waiting, and a real God who remains faithful through all of it. That's part of why this breakthrough has been worth the wait of preparation. It's not just about what changes in your life, as meaningful as that is. It's about what your changed life speaks into the lives of others who have needed proof that hope isn't foolish, that trust isn't wasted, that I am still the God who answers. You're being prepared not only to receive, but to carry something that will ripple outward in ways you can't currently measure. The final press before breakthrough, I also need to prepare you for something. In the days just ahead, there may be one final place of pressure before the opening comes. I'm telling you this not to discourage you, but so that when it comes, you recognize it for what it is. It isn't a sign that things are falling apart. It's the moment that almost always precedes a breakthrough, the place where the press is most intense because what's about to emerge is most powerful. When you feel that pressure, don't read it as defeat. Read it as the signal that you're right at the threshold. Think of it this way: before the new day fully arrives, the darkness just before dawn is at its deepest. Not because light is retreating, but because light is about to break. You're in that space right now. The dark is deep, but the dawn is genuinely near. I am not simply saying this to comfort you, I'm saying it because it's true, and I don't speak things that aren't true. When that final test comes, don't face it alone. Bring it to me. Don't carry it in silence or try to resolve it through your own reasoning. Come with it openly and let me be what I've always been to you: your source, your support, your place of refuge. I will be closer in that moment than I've ever felt. My hand will be under you. My words will rise in you. You will not fall. I've made sure of that. And when it passes, when you come through that final place of pressing, you look back at it the way you now look back at every other difficulty you survived, with the clear knowledge that I was in it, that you weren't alone, and that it served the purpose you couldn't see in the middle of it. Stand firm for this last stretch. Don't measure the distance still remaining. Look at me instead. Fix your eyes on who I am rather than on how far it still feels. I am right there at the finish line of this season, and I'm already holding what I promised you. It has your name on it. You are not approaching your end. My beloved, I have never let go of you. Not in the valleys, not in the silences, not in the seasons when you felt most unseen. My grip on your life hasn't loosened once, and I'm not about to loosen it now, when the very thing I've been preparing is finally ready to be placed in your hands. You are not approaching your end, you're approaching your arrival. Feel the difference. Let it settle into the deepest part of you. This isn't the end of the road. This is where the road opens wide. I want to close this with something that has always been true about you, something your hardest seasons may have obscured but never managed to erase. You weren't brought into this world by accident. Your existence isn't the product of random chance or indifferent forces. I formed you. I thought about you before the first breath of your life. I knew the particular shape of what you would need, the specific kind of resilience you would have to develop, the unique purpose that only you in all of time could carry. There is no one else who can do what you were made to do. No duplicate, no substitute. You are singular in my design, and that design hasn't been canceled by any difficulty you've walked through. This matters because I want you to stop carrying the question of whether you're enough. The answer is settled. It isn't settled by your performance or your track record or your sense of personal worthiness. It's settled by who I am and by the fact that I made you. I don't make things without value. I don't bring a person through what you've been through and then set them aside as something that didn't work out. You worked out exactly as I intended. The seasons that refined you did what refinement does. They took away what was impure and left what is real. What's standing in front of me right now is the truest version of you, the one I was always working toward, what moving forward actually looks like. Now, I want to speak plainly about what moving forward actually looks like from here, because it isn't complicated. It doesn't require you to have everything figured out. It doesn't require perfect certainty or an absence of questions. Moving forward simply means waking up tomorrow and choosing to trust that I am who I say I am and that what I've promised, I'm delivering. That's the whole of it. One day, one choice, one step, and then another after that. The path in front of you won't always be fully visible before you step onto it. That's the nature of faith. It moves on the word of the one giving direction, not on the full visibility of where the direction leads. But hear me say this: every path I've called someone onto, I've already walked. There's no stretch of road ahead of you unknown to me. Where you're going, I've already been. I've cleared what needed clearing. I've marked what you need to notice. I've stationed what you need along the way. You will not step into anything alone. The renewal of your strength, the tiredness you carry today is real. I don't want you to dismiss it or perform energy you don't possess. But I also want you to know that what I'm releasing into your body and your spirit right now isn't based on your current supply. I have a supply that doesn't run low. What you need for the next step would be available when you need it, not before and not too late, exactly when it's required. I have never given my children more than they could carry, and I've never withheld what they genuinely needed for the path I placed them on. Some of what I'm giving you now will arrive quietly, a shift in a relationship, a door you walk past and then feel drawn back to a sense of peace about a decision that seemed impossible to make. Some of it will arrive with more force, something unmistakable, something that stops you and makes you say, "This is you." Both kinds are real. Both kinds carry my intention. Don't miss the quiet ones in your hunger for the dramatic ones. I speak in both registers, and the quiet ones often carry the direction for the larger things that follow. Confidence rooted in who I am. I'm calling you to move with a new quality of confidence from this point forward. Not a confidence in yourself alone, because that kind of confidence has limits and you know it, but a confidence rooted in who I am. A confidence that says, I don't know exactly how this resolves, but I know the one who holds the resolution, and I know his record and I trust him. That is an unshakable foundation. Nothing that comes against you can destabilize a confidence rooted there because it isn't built on anything circumstances can touch. The dreams that have felt dormant inside you, the ones you protected from your own expectation because they seemed too large or too unlikely, bring them back out. I placed them there. They belong there. They aren't proof that you want too much. They're indicators of what I built you for. Begin to hold them again carefully with an open hand rather than a desperate grip. Trust me with them. Tell me, this is what I sense inside me, and I give it to you. Let me carry those desires with you, because the one who placed them there is fully capable of bringing them to pass. A final call to step forward. Walk forward now, my beloved, not with the exhausted steps of someone who has barely survived the road behind them. Walk with the steady, sure steps of someone who knows they're accompanied, who knows where the path leads, who knows the one holding their hand. What's ahead of you isn't a smaller life. It isn't a diminished version of what you hoped for. It's the full thing, the whole and rich and purposeful life I had in mind when I first breathed your name into being. There is nothing left to fear. There is nothing left to hold back. All you need to do is take my hand and step forward with me. And let this be the moment your new season truly begins. Speak your yes. Speak your yes aloud if you're ready, and take my hand. I am already there, waiting for you, with everything I promised held out in my hands. Come, this is the moment you've been moving toward, and it is good. It is very good. If this word has touched your heart, I invite you to do three things. One, leave a comment saying, I received this word as your declaration of faith. Two, share this message with someone who needs to hear it today. Three, subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss the prophetic words I release for your breakthrough. Your season of manifestation has arrived. The wait is over.